One morning the food bowl is full. You search every room. And then you find him, under the bed, avoiding your eyes, completely still. Most people ask, did I do something wrong? But the question science says you should actually be asking is far more important. And the answer will change everything you thought you knew about that moment. For a long time, it was believed that dogs near the end wander off or become anxious. But that's not exactly true. And what research has uncovered instead is something that, from a psychological perspective, is actually deeply comforting. Your dog doesn't know he's dying. But he knows that something significant, something that might mean never seeing each other again, is coming. So does your dog actually know he's about to cross the rainbow bridge? The answer isn't yes or no. It's something more precise than either. In 2021, philosopher Susana Monceau from the University of Madrid published a study proposing that among many species, dogs possess a minimal concept of death. But having a concept of death is different from having a perception of it, and having a perception of your own death is something else entirely. Humans are the only species that think about what happens after we exist. Dogs don't think deeply about what comes next. What they do instead is something more immediate and, in its own way, more honest. They feel that their bodies no longer respond the way they used to, that walks are harder, that their appetite has changed. But the most remarkable part? They can smell it. Dogs have 300 million olfactory receptors. There's a common urban legend that they can smell cancer. That legend is entirely true. In California, 5 ordinary household dogs were trained to detect lung cancer from samples of human breath, with 99% accuracy. A 2024 study at the Penn Vet Working Dog Center showed dogs can detect cancer in the saliva of other dogs with 90% sensitivity, which means they are constantly analyzing their own chemical signature. Every breath, every compound, every shift happening inside them. They have the ability to detect when something is failing, including in themselves. When that happens, dogs typically do one of two things. They either start to distance themselves, hiding in corners, under beds, avoiding eye contact. Or they do the exact opposite. They become intensely attached, following you from room to room, pressing against you, refusing to leave your side. Most people interpret the first as sadness, the second as love. But science has an answer that is more interesting, and more moving, than either of those. In 1988, Benjamin Hart from the UC Davis School of Veterinary Medicine published a paper that became foundational to understanding sick animals. He demonstrated that isolation, loss of appetite, increased sleep, and social withdrawal are not signs of giving up. They are evolutionary traits. Inherited responses. The dog isn't in a state of depression. It has shut down non-essential functions to redirect every available resource toward fighting the illness. Hart called this the animal's total effort to overcome. A technical way of saying, I'm going to use everything I've got. There's a second layer to this. In the era when dogs were more wolf than dog, sick or elderly animals would move away from the pack, to avoid drawing predators, to avoid slowing the group, to protect the ones they loved by removing themselves from the equation. Whether they draw closer or pull away, it stems from the same biological need. To protect, to inform, to express loyalty. Pulling away isn't abandonment. It's one of the oldest forms of love. Pain is overwhelming, confusing, and conflicting. When a dog is afraid, he runs straight to his protector, which will always be you. But when he is certain of something, he moves away to look out for you. Specialists note that sudden intense attachment combined with restlessness or panting often indicates uncontrolled pain, which should always be evaluated by a vet. But the attachment itself isn't desperation. That is trust. Then there are the moments that are hardest to explain. He visits every family member one by one. He walks to his favorite spot in the yard that he hadn't visited in months. Or after days of barely moving, he suddenly gets up, eats dinner, wags his tail, and seems completely normal, for an hour. And then he's gone. This is called the last rally. In 2023, researchers cataloged 114 accounts of this from owners and veterinarians. One vet noted it wasn't uncommon to be called to euthanize a dog, only to be greeted at the door by an animal barking and jumping. A team led by Jima Borjijan at the University of Michigan discovered that when the brain loses oxygen during cardiac arrest, it doesn't simply shut off. It produces a surge of organized gamma-wave activity, a final burst of neural coherence as the brain attempts one last time to restore balance. Who's to say the same thing doesn't happen in dogs? The science and the meaning don't have to be in conflict. Both can be true at the same time. Now, if you're carrying guilt about this next part, stay with me. Because this is the part that matters most. Some people face the decision to choose euthanasia. It is never easy. It is always painful. And it is not a bad thing. When no other options remain, it may be the kindest act available. A single dose essentially turns off consciousness. The animal loses brain activity approximately 52 seconds after the injection, entering a deep sleep in which they do not feel the moment they lose awareness. This was confirmed in 2015 by a team at UC Davis led by Monica Ailman. The movements that sometimes follow, the reactions, the gasps, are muscular responses only. They are already gone. They are not suffering. At Freie Universität Berlin, researchers monitored over 400 euthanasia procedures and found that stress markers remained low throughout, whether the owner was present or not, whether the animal was at home or at the clinic. The concept of euthanasia has no meaning to them. They do not perceive that something is being done to them. But here is what did matter. And this is the part to hold on to. fMRI research by Gregory Burns at Emory University showed that the caudate nucleus, the brain's reward center, activates more strongly in dogs at the scent of their owner than at any other stimulus. Not food. Not other dogs. And that activation happens even when you aren't visible. Your scent alone is enough. What this means is that in those final seconds of consciousness, if you are there, your scent, your voice, your hand on their fur, those things are being registered in the part of your dog's brain associated with safety and reward. You are the last good thing they experience. Not the pain. Not the fear. The science on this is not ambiguous. Your presence is the greatest gift you can give them in that moment. And if that brings you any comfort, hold on to it, because it is real. And then comes what may be the least talked about and most underestimated part of all of this. Grief. In 2016, the journal PLOS I published research from Maynooth University evaluating 975 people who had lost a pet. Using clinical diagnostic criteria for prolonged grief disorder, 7.5% met the full threshold. A national RSPCA survey found that 75% of pet owners begin grieving before the animal even passes, what psychologists call anticipatory grief. Less than 7% felt the people around them took their pain seriously. More than half hid how they were truly feeling. Psychologists call this disenfranchised grief. The pain that society tells you isn't valid. But your brain doesn't care what society says. Researchers from Harvard and Massachusetts General Hospital scanned the brains of mothers looking at photos of their children and their dogs. The same core emotional networks, the amygdala, the orbitofrontal cortex, activated in both cases. The attachment circuit doesn't check the species. It responds to the bond. As research has shown repeatedly, the relationship between a dog and their person is written in stress hormones, heart rate patterns, and even shared gut bacteria from years of living together. When that bond is broken, grief isn't sentimental. It is your nervous system registering the loss of a biological companion whose body was synchronized with yours. That deserves to be honored, not minimized. So here is what the science says when you put all of it together. A dog does not fear death. They do not lie in dread. They do not count the hours. What they carry instead, confirmed in every brain scan, is a neurological portrait of you stored in their reward circuits, that activates every time they catch your scent or hear your voice. You are not just their owner. You are their favorite experience. That's not poetry. That's data. The life you gave them, the walks, the couch time, the mornings, the way you said their name, all of it built a welfare history that veterinary science would classify as good. Not because every day was perfect, but because the balance was overwhelmingly positive. You gave them that. If you're in this moment now or if it's coming, be there. Your presence matters down to the neurochemistry. And if it already happened and you're still carrying the weight of it, know this. What you're feeling is the biologically accurate, proportional cost of having been someone's entire world. And having them be a part of yours. If this video reached you at the right time, or helped you understand something you've been carrying, leave a comment below. And if you want to keep understanding the animals that share your life at this level, subscribe. Every video in this series goes deeper than the surface. You won't find this kind of breakdown anywhere else.